Nathan Carter was used to business meetings, power deals, and expensive restaurants. But when he saw a little girl crying alone at a corner table, something in him told him to stop. He had no idea that comforting her would reveal a truth that would shake his entire world. Nathan Carter had spent his life in control. As the CEO of Carter Enterprises, he was always 3 steps ahead. In business, in negotiations, in life. But nothing in his years of power and precision could have prepared him for what happened that evening. The restaurant was one of the finest in the city, a place where millionaires, celebrities, and politicians dined in luxury. Nathan sat near the window, sipping his whiskey while waiting for his client. But then he noticed her. A little girl, no older than 6 or 7, sat at a corner table, her small hands wiping at her tear-streaked face. She was alone, curled up in her chair, her quiet sniffles barely noticeable over the hum of restaurant chatter. Nathan frowned. A child, crying alone in a place like this? Where were her parents? Something deep in his chest tightened. He wasn't the type to get involved in strangers' lives, but for some reason he couldn't look away. After a moment of hesitation, he exhaled, pushed back his chair, and walked toward her table. "Hey, sweetheart," he said softly. "Are you okay?" The little girl blinked up at him, her big, tear-filled brown eyes meeting his. Nathan's breath hitched. Something about those eyes. They looked familiar. She sniffled. My mummy was supposed to meet me here, but she's late." Nathan's stomach tightened. Her voice was small, fragile, afraid. He glanced around, looking for a mother rushing toward her, but saw no one. "Do you want me to call someone for you?" he asked gently. She shook her head, rubbing her tiny fists against her eyes. "No! She said she'd be here. She always comes." Nathan sighed. "Okay, but while you wait, how about I keep you company?" The little girl hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. Nathan sat down across from her, signaling the waiter. "Let's get you something to eat." She gave a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, mister." Nathan chuckled. "You can call me Nathan." She nodded, then whispered, "I'm Lily." Nathan froze. His chest tightened painfully. Lily. That name. His mind raced. There was only one other person in his life who had ever mentioned that name. Her mother. And suddenly he wasn't so sure he was sitting with a stranger anymore. Nathan's heartbeat slammed in his chest. Lily. The name sent a shockwave through his system, because 7 years ago he had loved someone, Emma, and before she left, before she disappeared without a trace, she had told him something he would never forget. "If I ever have a daughter, I'd name her Lily." Nathan swallowed hard, his hands curling into fists beneath the table. It had to be a coincidence. It had to be. But when he looked at the little girl sitting across from him, something deep inside him whispered otherwise. She had his eyes, his sharp brown eyes, the same eyes his mother always said were the defining trait of the Carter family. Nathan forced himself to stay calm. He needed answers. "So, Lily," he said, keeping his voice steady, "how old are you?" She brightened slightly, holding up her tiny fingers. "I just turned 6. Nathan's stomach dropped. 6. Emma left 7 years ago. His grip on the table tightened. Before he could ask anything else, a deep male voice interrupted them. "Lily, sweetheart." Nathan looked up just as a tall, well-dressed man approached their table. His hair was slicked back, his watch expensive, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Lily wiped her face quickly, forcing a smile. "Uncle James!" Nathan stiffened. "Uncle?" The man placed a firm hand on Lily's shoulder, looking at Nathan with an unreadable expression. "I hope she wasn't bothering you." Nathan's jaw clenched. "Not at all." James turned to Lily. "Come on, kiddo. Let's go wait outside for your mum. Lily hesitated. But Nathan was keeping me company. James' smile tightened. That's nice of him. But your mum wouldn't want you talking to strangers, would she? Nathan's patience snapped. He looked James dead in the eye. I'm not a stranger. James arched an eyebrow. Oh. Nathan leaned forward, his voice dangerously low. I'm someone who deserves to know why she has my eyes. James' entire body went rigid. For a fraction of a second, panic flashed in his eyes. Lily looked between them, confused. Uncle James? What's wrong? James quickly masked his reaction, forcing another smile. Nothing, sweetheart. He took her hand. Come on, we should go. Nathan wasn't done. His voice was calm but deadly. Where's Emma? James didn't answer. He just gripped Lily's hand tighter and turned away. Nathan's blood boiled. He wasn't letting this go. He pulled out his phone, snapped a quick photo of James and Lily as they walked away, and made a silent promise. No matter what it took, he was going to find out the truth. Nathan's fingers tightened around his phone as he watched James lead Lily out of the restaurant. His mind was racing. That look in James's eyes wasn't just shock, it was fear. Who the hell was he? And why was he acting like Nathan, knowing the truth was a threat? Nathan didn't waste time. He stood, threw a few bills on the table, and followed them. Not too closely, but close enough. Outside, James and Lily walked toward a black SUV parked near the curb. Nathan saw another man in a suit waiting in the driver's seat. Something was wrong. James wasn't just some friendly uncle. This felt controlled, guarded. Lily climbed into the back seat. James glanced around before getting in beside her, still looking tense. Nathan pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of the license plate. Then, just before the car pulled away, Lily turned and looked back. For a second, their eyes met through the window. Nathan felt a tight pull in his chest. And then she was gone. Nathan exhaled sharply, his mind spinning. This wasn't a coincidence. Emma had left him 7 years ago without a word. No messages, no explanation, just gone. And now, suddenly, he finds a little girl with his eyes, his features, his blood. And she calls another man uncle? Number someone had lied to him. He had two options: walk away and pretend this never happened, or dig until he found the truth. For Nathan Carter, there was only ever one choice. Back at his penthouse, Nathan sat at his desk, staring at his laptop screen. The SUV's license plate results had just come in. Registered to James Holloway, a name Nathan recognized immediately. His entire body tensed. James Holloway wasn't just some random man, he was Emma's brother. Nathan's blood ran cold. Emma had a daughter, his daughter, and her family had been hiding it from him. His pulse pounded as he scrolled through old articles, searching for anything about Emma. Then he found it. A hospital report. Emma Carter, admitted 6 years ago. Maternity ward. No father listed on the birth certificate. Nathan's fists clenched. They erased him. And now he wanted answers. He grabbed his keys and his jacket. There was only one place he needed to go. Emma's family home. And this time, no one was going to stop him. Nathan's grip on the steering wheel tightened as he drove toward the Carter family estate. It had been 7 years since he last set foot there. 7 years since Emma vanished. 7 years of questions. And now he finally had proof that someone had stolen his daughter from him. His jaw clenched. No more secrets. The grand, ivy-covered mansion came into view, standing just as imposing as he remembered. The Carter name was old money, generations of wealth built on real estate and politics. But none of that mattered to Nathan. He wasn't here for them. He was here for Emma, for Lily. As he pulled into the driveway, the front door opened. James Holloway stepped out, his expression instantly turning grim. He had expected this. Nathan slammed the car door shut and stalked toward him. "You knew," Nathan growled. "You knew this whole time, didn't you?" James exhaled. "Nathan, cut the crap!" Nathan snapped. "Emma had my child. You lied to me. All of you did." James's face hardened. "It's not that simple." Nathan let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, really? Because it seems pretty damn simple to me. You stole my daughter." The front door opened again, and this time Emma stepped out. Nathan's breath hitched. 7 years had passed, but she still looked exactly the same. Except now, there was guilt written all over her face. She took a shaky breath. "Nathan." His stomach tightened painfully. "Say it," he demanded. "Say the words, Emma. Say she's mine." Emma's eyes filled with tears. Her lips parted, but she didn't deny it. She couldn't, because the truth was standing between them in the shape of a 6-year-old girl. Nathan's heart pounded. She had kept his child from him, his own flesh and blood. His voice was raw, filled with betrayal, anger, and something deeper. "Why?" His voice cracked. "Why did you do this to me?" Emma took a shaky step forward. "Because I had to." Nathan's fists clenched. "That wasn't good enough." "That's not an answer," he said coldly. "That's an excuse." James sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Nathan, you don't understand." Nathan turned on him, his eyes burning. "Then make me understand." Emma swallowed hard. Then, in a whisper, she said something that made everything stop. "I was protecting you." Nathan stilled. His anger flickered. Protecting him? From what? Emma's hands trembled. "There's something you don't know. Something I never told you." Nathan's breath hitched. Because the way she was looking at him, this wasn't just about the past. This was about a secret much bigger than he ever imagined. Nathan's pulse thundered in his ears. "I was protecting you." The words echoed in his mind, but they made no sense. He had spent the last 7 years searching for Emma, wondering why she left, why she never reached out, why she took his child and erased him. And now, standing right in front of her, all she could say was that she was protecting him? His jaw tightened. "Protecting me from what, Emma?" Emma's eyes flickered with something deep. Fear, pain, guilt. James stepped forward, his voice low, firm. "Emma, don't." Emma ignored him. Her gaze stayed locked on Nathan. She was done hiding. She exhaled shakily. "Nathan, the night I left, I got a call. From my father." Nathan's chest tightened. Senator Richard Carter. A man ruthless enough to control every aspect of his daughter's life. Emma continued, her voice trembling. "He told me that if I stayed with you, you'd be dead by morning." Nathan's breath hitched. "What?" Tears welled in her eyes. "You were getting too close to something, Nathan. A deal my father was involved in. A scandal that would have destroyed him. He knew you wouldn't back down, so he made sure you wouldn't get the chance." Nathan's blood ran cold. His mind flashed back to that time in his career, his biggest investigation, the one that almost landed him in political warfare. Back then, he had assumed someone high up had shut down his work, forced his sources to go silent. But he never realized how close he had come to real danger. Emma swallowed hard. "He gave me a choice. Leave you and disappear, or let you die." Nathan felt like the ground had been pulled from beneath him. 7 years. 7 years of anger, confusion, and heartbreak. And all this time, she had been saving his life, his hands clenched. "You should have told me." Emma let out a choked breath. "I couldn't, Nathan. If I had contacted you, if he even suspected we were in touch, he would have had you killed." Nathan shook his head, his emotions warring inside him. "And Lily. You let me miss my daughter's entire life? Tears streamed down Emma's face. I was scared, and then time passed, and I didn't know how to fix it. She looked at him desperately. But I never stopped loving you. Nathan inhaled sharply. Love. After all this time, that word still held power. His chest ached as he looked at her, the woman he had once planned to build a life with, the woman who had been forced to choose between saving him and breaking him, and their daughter, his daughter. Nathan's gaze softened as he asked the one question that mattered now. Does Lily know about me? Emma hesitated, then shook her head. She just knows her dad wasn't around. Her voice broke. But she doesn't know why. Nathan's jaw clenched. She will now. Emma's breath caught. Nathan wasn't leaving, not this time. He took a step closer, his voice steady. I missed the first 6 years of her life. I won't miss another second. Emma wiped her tears, nodding. I don't want you to. A small voice interrupted them. Nathan? Nathan turned, and there she was. Lily stood in the doorway, her tiny face filled with confusion. Nathan's heart stopped. Because, for the first time, he wasn't just looking at a little girl in a restaurant. He was looking at his daughter. His voice came out rough, filled with emotion. Hey, kiddo. Lily hesitated, looking at her mother, then back at Nathan. Are you my daddy? Nathan felt something inside him break and heal all at once. He crouched down, his throat tight. Yeah, sweetheart, I am. Lily's lip quivered. You came back? Nathan's chest ached. I didn't know about you, Lily, he whispered. But now that I do, I'm never leaving again. Tears filled Lily's eyes, but this time they weren't from sadness. Then, in a heartbeat, she ran into his arms. Nathan wrapped his arms around her, holding his daughter for the first time. And at that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the past, not the lies, not even the man who had tried to keep them apart. Because Nathan had finally found what he had been missing all along: his family.